Thanks. Please be seated. His Excellency, the President of the Republic of South Africa, Mr. Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, the Acting Deputy Chief Justice, Justice Sisi Khampepe, who's also representing the Chief Justice, the Judge President of the Mpumalanga Division of the High Court, and other Judge Presidents and members of the Judiciary present, the Premier of Mpumalanga, the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, and the Minister of Public Works, and the Minister in the Presidency, other ministers, deputy ministers, MECs, members of Parliament and the Provincial Legislature, the executive mayors of Ehlanzeni District Municipality and Mbombela Local Municipality and councillors, the Regional Court President and members of the Magistracy, the National Director of Public Prosecutions and members of the NPA, the Commissioner of the South African Police Service and other other members of the police, the head of the Special Investigating Unit, representatives of Legal Aid South Africa, representatives of the Diplomatic Corps, representatives from the legal profession, the Legal Practice Council, the Black Lawyers Association and Ardell, traditional and religious leaders, community leaders and residents of Mpumalanga, ladies and gentlemen and friends. Good morning, Abusheni, Dumelang, Sanbonani, Dimacheroni, Lochani. May we please rise for the national anthem. Thank you. Please be seated. It's a great privilege and an honor for us to be able to meet here on this historic day, here in the place where the sun rises. As Mpumalanga is the last province to get its own provincial seat at the High Court, this is a historic day indeed, as we deliver on our promise of making access to justice a reality for all the people of our country. So now each of the 9 provinces has their own High Court. I'd now like to call on the Premier of Mpumalanga, the Honourable Refilwe Mchweni Tsipane, to deliver the welcome and opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Program Director. His Excellency, the President of the Republic, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, the Deputy Chief Justice of the Constitutional Court of South Africa, Justice Kampepe, the Judge President of the Mpumalanga Division of the High Court, Mr. Francis Lekhodi, the hosting Executive Mayor of Ehlanzeni District, Ms. Jay Seidel, the Honorable Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, Mr. Ronald Lamola, all ministers and deputy ministers in our midst, the esteemed members of the Executive Council of Mpumalanga, all executive mayors and councillors in our midst, members of the judiciary present, ladies and gentlemen, Lochani. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Mpumalanga Provincial Government and the beautiful people of Mpumalanga, it gives me a great pleasure to welcome you all to the ceremonial opening of the Mpumalanga Division of the High Court. Mr. President, today is an important day in the history of our province. The people of Mpumalanga have for decades needed to travel to Gauteng to access services that are obtained from a high court. Standing here today, on behalf of the people of Mpumalanga, we are indeed delighted to have our own High Court. The establishment of the High Court in Mpumalanga is a fulfillment of our democratic commitment to ensure access to justice for all. We also affirm that the decision of the ANC-led government to finally ensure that the Mpumalanga province has its own High Court will yield immeasurable positive spin-offs for the overall administration of justice in our province. We trust that the opening of this High Court shall also serve as a catalyst in our efforts to attract legal expertise back to our province. I urge you, the Judge President of the Mpumalanga High Court, Mr. Lekhodi, to lead the process of encouraging our legal practitioners to return home and establish their professional roots in this beautiful complex. By so doing, we shall achieve our dual goal of improving and transforming jurisprudence in the province whilst ensuring access to justice for all in our society. To the members of our jurisprudence, we urge you to be firm in the execution of your duties. Be firm in the knowledge that you are tasked with the revered duty to preserve our constitutional democracy. Dare not make light of this calling. Program Director, once more allow me to take this opportunity to welcome all our wonderful guests to the province of Mpumalanga, a province whose beauty is only matched by the beauty of its cultural heritage and the beauty of its people. A province that is home to the World Heritage Site of Makonjwa Mountains in Barberton. A province that has preserved the nostalgic symbolism of pilgrim rests in Graskop. A province that is blessed with lush forestry that forms the background of a drive through the panorama route and one of the few places on the planet that is home to the Big Five. I urge all of you to utilize this opportunity and allow yourself to be truly immersed by the beauty of the land of the rising sun. I thank you.
Thank you, Madam Premier. Judge Francis Lekhodi was appointed as the very first Judge President of this division of the High Court in 2017. On the 13th of May this year, the Mpumalanga Division of the High Court had its first sittings in the new building here in Mbombela and the renovated building in Middelburg. And Judge President Lekhodi presided over the first sitting here in the newly built High Court in Mbombela. Judge President Lekhodi was also chairperson of the Magistrates Commission, and he served with distinction for over 8 years until his last term expired in January this year. Judge President Lekhodi is truly a son of the Mpumalanga soil, and he's a trailblazer in many ways. Not only is he the first judge president of this division, but early on in his legal career, he joined Dr. Matthews Khosa and Phineas Mojapelo at Mojapelo and Partners, a firm which was Mpumalanga's first ever black legal practice. And in 1987, Judge President Lekhodi started his own practice here in Bushbuck Ridge. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Judge President Lekhodi.
Just a follow-up, Honorable Premier, I can promise you of one thing. I will recruit those sons and daughters from this area as lawyers to come back home. And in fact, if it was not for the fact that one of them had been stolen from us, he would have been the first to be recruited. And there he is. His Excellency, Honorable President Cyril Ramaphosa, as you might recall, exactly 2 years ago, you expressed a wish to come and open this beautiful building in this beautiful part of our country. Today, that wish has been realized. We are overjoyed. And we just want to say this to you. The inside and outside beauty of this building is a reflection of the inside and outside beauty of the people who are working in this building. These are men and women who treat and see each other as equals, including those men and women who open the windows for us every morning for fresh air and to keep us healthy. These are men and women who keep the plants you see outside and the surroundings green and clean. These are people who know no positions, titles, or status. They live up to the principle, respect is earned. They are service-orientated. They see themselves as true servants of the people in this beautiful part of our country. They serve with their hearts and pride. These are men and women with very minimal and humble requests to make. On their knees, they say, do not allow this wonderful building to dilapidate. Allow the outside and inside beauty of this building to strive for generations to come. Efficient and regular maintenance of the building is the solution. Honorable Minister Delay, we are encouraged by what you have already done for the judiciary in terms of infrastructure since your appointment. This building, from here henceforth, is your baby. As a responsible minister for the maintenance and upkeeping of this building, if you have to give it the best and healthiest product milk to nourish it, please do so. In that way, the more than 1 billion rand spent on this building, as we have been told, will be preserved for generations to come. As we make this plea, His Excellency, Honorable President, consider having this building and its precinct declared a national key point area. One does not want to imagine the possibility of any loss, destruction, and or damage to this wonderful building. Where would we get another +1 billion rand to rebuild? Declaring this place a national key point area will also ensure the security and safety of the people working in this building and those who will be coming to this building for service. We make this plea mindful of the budgetary constraints we are faced with as a country. And that being so, we would rather jealously safeguard and preserve what we have. Honorable Minister Lamola and Honorable Premier Msweni Tsipani, I do not think we are ever going to have another state-of-the-art building in this province during our lifetime. The two of you are born and bred in this province, including His Excellency, Deputy President of the country, including you, Minister Mutembo. This building is your pride too. Do not worry. The relationship between an attendant client still remains. Confidential is still there. This building is your pride too. I am not for a moment suggesting anything sinister or improper, but help us to persuade the responsible minister in the security cluster to consider declaring this place a national key point area. Next week, Honorable Minister Lamola, you will have our formal request on your desk. His Excellency, I suspect, is likely to ask you about progress on this request every time he sees you. And please do not try to run away from him. To my leader in the judiciary, Acting Deputy Chief Justice Kampepe, I have a confession to make. I am one of those who were convinced that finalization of cases within 12 months through judicial case management, introduced first in the norms and standards in 2014, was a mission impossible. That, of course, is the problem with people who resist to embrace change. I was one of them. But I now know that finalization of cases within 12 months through case management by judges is a mission possible. In this division, we strive to live up to justice expedited is justice realized. Our enrollment rate is high. Our finalization rate is promising. Very soon, all legal practitioners in this division will embrace change. Very soon, we will become a model division. Very soon, the beauty of this building will be reflected in our judicial performance as it is already happening. As it happens, I can gracefully and peacefully look forward to retire in about 4 years' time, well, when I'll be turning 70. There you are, you have my age now. We just want to say this to you, Acting Deputy Chief Justice. Thank you for the leadership and guidance that we continue to receive from our Chief Justice, including heads of courts and my other colleagues who are here today. Special thanks to the two judges president who came before me when this division was still under Gauteng division. Retired Judge President Mwebe, he's seated there, a senior citizen, and Judge President Mlambo, my brother. Had it not have been for your tireless efforts to bring costs closer to the people, in all probabilities, we will not have been here today. Speaking about bringing costs closer to the people, Judge President Wakely, you are here, Judge President of the Labour Court. and Acting Judge President Mayor in her absence, Acting Judge President of the Land Claims Court, please do not forget that you have been offered fully equipped courts and judges' chamber in this building. This course will be exclusively reserved for you and your judges to hear labor and land claims matters arising from this province. And if you want the keys, you can have the keys today. In that way, people from around this province will not have to travel far away to access justice and have labor and land claims matters resolved outside this province. To the people of Mpumalanga, and this is very close to my heart, we once more want to make this undertaking and promise to you. We will execute our judicial functions in our courts without fear, favor, or prejudice. We will decide cases and apply the law impartially, guided by the facts of each case. We will do this with the letter and spirit of our oath. No one will exert undue influence on us in our judicial making powers. In other words, no one will capture us. I thank you.
Thank you, Judge President Lakhodi, our trailblazing first Judge President of Mpumalanga. But speaking of trailblazers, we're also very privileged to have one of our country's foremost female legal minds and our current Acting Deputy Chief Justice, Justice Sisi Khampepe, with us today for this momentous occasion, and she's here representing the Chief Justice. In the mid-1980s, at the height of apartheid and the states of emergency, a young attorney established her own law firm, a law firm that was to become renowned for defending the rights of workers against unjust laws and unfair employment practices. It was one of the very few black labor law firms in the country at the time. The fearless young attorney would later, in December 2000, become a judge in the High Court. Acting Deputy Chief Justice, it's my pleasure to welcome you and to call on you to deliver a message from the judiciary.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of South Africa, Mr. Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, the Honorable Minister Lamula, the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers present, our host judge, President Lakhodi, the Judge President of the Mpumalanga Division of the High Court, Judges President, former Judges President, and in this regard I must mention my mentor, Justice Mwebe. Former Judges President and Deputy Judges President, all judges present. Honorable Msweni Tsipane, the Premier of the Mpumalanga Province, members of the Mpumalanga Provincial Legislature, Councillor Siedel, the Executive Mayor of the Nhlanzeni District Municipalities, officials from the Presidency, Office of the Chief Justice, Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, as well as other government departments, representatives of the Industrial Development Trust, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, being here today for the opening of the Mpumalanga Division of the High Court is a humbling honor, and thus I proffer my profound gratitude for being invited to this historical event. It is days like these that remind me that the constitutional project is still alive and the South Africa envisaged by the Constitution, which is founded on the rule of law and the supremacy of the Constitution, is taking shape. There is still much to be done. However, we should not lose sight of the achievements, strides, and attainments we have made as a country since 1994. The establishment and opening of this court is a reflection of our steadfast commitment to the Constitution and its values. It is the manifestation of the constitutional promise. It is the symbol of access to justice. It is a reminder that the country is founded on human dignity, equality, freedom, and the rule of law. Courts are vanguards of our community's needs and concerns. On this day, we have cause to consider the role of courts in a constitutional dispensation. This is paramount because it is through this deep reflection and critical engagement that we can truly appreciate what it means for courts to be the vehicles of justice in our communities. The interim constitution profoundly and perspicuously elucidated that, I quote, "This constitution provides a historic bridge between the past of a deeply divided society characterized by strife, conflict, untold suffering and injustice, and a future founded on all recognition of human rights, democracy, and peaceful coexistence and development opportunities for all South Africans, irrespective of race, color, class, belief, or sex," unquote. The late Chief Justice Pius Langa, in relation to the Constitutional Court, remarked that the court building has itself become symbolic of the constitutional project of creating a bridge between a terrible past and a brighter future. It is, of course, not a bridge that can simply be crossed once, leaving the past behind. It is a bridge that must be crossed again and again in the constant search for justice in our young democracy. It is my belief that all courts throughout South Africa are an integral cornerstone of the bridge from an oppressive past, which was mired with gross human rights violations and rooted in despicable injustices, to a future founded on democracy, the rule of law, and human rights. As a result, the work and functions of the court are not to be undermined and gainsaid. At the core of the court's function is the upholding of the laws of the Republic, especially the Constitution, and ensuring that the injustices of the past do not repeat themselves. It is the duty of the courts, along with other relevant players, to disturb and break away from the notion that South Africa is a country characterized by impunity and lawlessness. There is an understated importance in establishing courts near communities. This is because it allows community members and ordinary people to access courts and not to have to travel far to have their disputes heard and adjudicated. It gives them the confidence that justice is one or two steps away. A court at the heart of the community serves as a reminder that justice is for everyone and that everyone is equal before the law. A court cannot be seen as a building where those with the means go to resolve their disputes. It must be available to everyone, and it must be seen to be available to everyone. The perception of justice being done is just as vital to the constitutional project as justice actually being done. This is one of the principal ways to ensure that the public has confidence in the justice system. The right of access to courts is so fundamental that it has been enshrined in our Constitution. To this end, Section 34 of the Constitution perspicuously provides that everyone has a right to have any dispute that can be resolved by the application of the law decided in a fair public hearing before a court. This wording in this section is instructive and does not give the state a choice, but it rather confers a right to everyone in the Republic, regardless of their race, sex, or class, to have disputes resolved by the court. It also does not give the state a choice in making courts available for certain people. It demands that courts are made available for everyone who has a dispute. Access to courts is not just a right conferred to litigants, but it is a right conferred to the public. This is why the section calls for public hearings. This is in accordance with the principle of open justice. Open justice is an important component of this right and the rule of law. Courts should, in principle, welcome public exposure of their work in the courtroom, subject, of course, to their obligation to ensure that proceedings are fair. The foundational constitutional values of accountability, responsiveness, and openness apply to the functioning of the judiciary as much as to other branches of government. These values underpin both the right to a fair trial and the right to a public hearing. The public is entitled to know exactly how the judiciary works and to be reassured that it always functions within the terms of the law and according to time-honored standards of independence, impartiality, and fairness. I cannot stress this enough. Access to justice should be and is a fundamental concern of the court. It is the quintessence of their function. If people are faced with legal issues and cannot knock on the doors of the court to vindicate their rights and present their cases effectively, then the courts would be denuded of their constitutional mandate and functions. With that being said, I close by asking that the pillars of this court, and I must say the glass of this court, comprise independence and impartiality. The independence of the judiciary is imperative if judges are to make impartial decisions unfettered from outside interference. This means that the judiciary must not be influenced by any other organ of state in making a decision. It cannot be gainsaid that the judges are subject to a duty of fidelity towards the constitutional text and nothing else. Once a judge is captured, to use a colloquial term, the rule of law is threatened and the Constitution is under siege. The text and the ideals of the Constitution are undoubtedly fatally undermined in situations where a judge finds in favor of the government in order to carry favor with a ruling party. However, this does not mean that judges should be opposed to finding in favor of the state if the law permits and justice agrees and nods. Again, fidelity to the law and not the litigating parties or overzealous judicial activism remains imperative. The law must always prevail and reign supreme. In terms of integrity, may this court be blind to those parties before it and remain committed to the Constitution. It should not matter who are the parties that knock on this door of this court, be it you, Mr. President, Emana, or Gogo Dlamini. It should not matter whether this court personally likes them or not. It should not matter that a particular outcome personally benefits any of the judges on the bench of this court. A court can vindicate rights, take away their freedoms, and in many ways the court is the country's voice of reason. Thus, integrity is an indispensable requirement of being a judge, which prevents a judge and the judiciary by extension from being corruptible. A corrupt court lacks integrity, and by lacking integrity, that court denigrates the rule of law. A judiciary that is characterized by corruption will not garner any public confidence and will constantly be undermined and ignored. Judicial independence and judicial integrity then are allies in the upholding of the rule of law. For there can be no judicial independence if the judiciary fails to act with integrity and honor in conformance with the utmost rigorous ethical standards. Lack of integrity within the judiciary can threaten the rule of law just as surely as lack of judicial independence. But when the judiciary fulfills the responsibility to behave with integrity that comes with the freedom to act independently, the rule of law is vindicated. I wish Judge President Johodi and the justices of this division all the best, and I have faith that this beautiful court will bring justice to the people of Mpumalanga and will uphold and respect the rule of law. The opening of this court, ladies and gentlemen, is indeed a victory for our constitutional democracy. I have no doubt that this court will set the world alight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Justice Kampepe. Today, as we know, is very much an Mpumalanga occasion. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome yet another person who hails from this province. Minister Ronald Lamola was born in Bushbuckridge and grew up on a farm near Komati Port. I know that this province is a place for which he has deep affection. He matriculated from the Machachka High School in Bushbuckridge in 2000 before attaining an LLB and 2 master's degree in law. He was appointed as the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services on the 29th of May this year, and his appointment brings with it passion, energy and leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Minister Ronald Lamola. He will also be introducing the questions.
Thank you very much, Program Director, GM John Jeffrey. Ngameli of South Africa, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, Mbunangulu Wespunza Mpumalanga, Minister Minister Dilile. I wanted to say Dilile. The Judge President was Mpumalanga High Court, Obablikodi. All justices were here from the various divisions. I can see various judge presidents of the various provinces here. The executive mayor of Tanzania, the acting CJ, on behalf of the Chief Justice, MECs from here, and councillors, and everyone who's here. I can also see various practitioners. Judge Johodi, these were my colleagues here in Mpumalanga. I was not stolen, but the work called me to join. The ANC document Ready to Govern said in 1992, for the anti-crime measures to succeed, it will be necessary to have a court system that broadly reflects society, racial and gender composition, and provide fairness and equality for all before the law. Detention without trial will be done away with. The system of justice will be made more accessible, cheap, fair, and accessible to everyone. The opening of this court resembles the ethos and the vision of the ANC in 1992, and also is encapsulated in the Freedom Charter. This was also summarized in the Constitution of our country in Section 34, which Judge Kampembe has already quoted. So I will not again quote that section. But the opening of this court is a true reflection of the commitment of government for the people of our country to access justice. Although it's here, the main seat is here in Bombela, yatholakala eGraskop, nge-Second Court, yatholakala eBriti, yatholakala eMkobola, yatholakala eBabaton, yatholakala eMiddelburg. Lonke indzawo laseMpumalanga abantu balokhona ukuthi bangene bathole umthetho weduzane nasemakhaya wabo. This is very important for our country, given our inequalities. We also have said from the department that the court must also reflect the demographics of our country, as stipulated in the ready-to-govern document. It must not be an exclusive white males for commercial law. We must see black practitioners doing commercial law. We must not only see them in the criminal court. For us as government, it's very important that we groom a new generation of legal practitioners in the mold of Dumisan Sabeza, in the mold of George Bezos, and many others. They will not do so only in the criminal court. The private sector in the province has a role to help black practitioners play a role in commercial litigation. Ourselves as government also have a role. Our Office of the State Attorney is already committed and making strides in this regard. We also call upon the provincial government, local municipalities, the private sector, and everyone to use black practitioners here in this province. They have the skill, they can do it. We have seen them in action. This court should be a theater and a dance floor for bridging and bringing this new generation. I'm very pleased to be here today because I know that this will be a pipeline for a new generation president. Women practitioners across the country will hear their cry. They are complaining that their struggles are very difficult. We are in the process of putting preferential policy procurement that will enable us to ensure that women practitioners receive and play a role in this justice system. And the access to court must not only be about the judgments and so forth, but it must also reflect the demographics of our country, as stated in the document that I quoted, Ready to Govern. This was further elucidated by one of the Chief Justices, Mr. Pius Land, when he said, we need a reconstruction of the state and society, including a redistribution of power and resources along egalitarian lines. The challenge of achieving equality within this transformation project involves the eradication of systematic forms of domination and material disadvantage based on race, gender, class, and other grounds of inequality. It is also entails the development of opportunities which allows people to realize their full and human potential within positive social relations. Close quote. This court, Mr. President, is a state-of-the-art court with modern technology, which is victim-friendly, aimed to ensure that victims of crime are able to access the justice system without fear. It is also a part of the course that we are looking into to ensure that we are introducing some of the modern technologies that we need. There is no need for convicts or those that are waiting trials to still come to court for postponement of a matter. These are technologies we need to explore, to look into, and ensure that we cut as far as possible the possibility of human interface in our court system. The trial should still be done through the court with them coming to the court. But there is no need to postpone to request something from a criminal accused in the court. It can be done from wherever it is. If it's in a correctional facility center, it can be done from there. So these are some of the measures we're looking into to introduce to this justice system, modern technology, and I hope practitioners will also come to the party, because I know lawyers are mostly paper heavy. They don't want to use technology, but we can no longer avoid it. It is here with us. We have to embrace it. We have to ensure that we play our role, because this will not only help the courts to function efficiently, as Judge Dekodi has said, that it's possible to enter a trial within 1 year, but it will also enable the people who are supposed to be served by justice to access our justice system. It will also make it easy, it will make it user-friendly, it will also make it very possible for them to participate in our criminal justice system. President Ramaphosa is a person who has just raised 363 billion from the investment conference. This is a very important milestone for our country, because for us to have the rule of law, we also need to have social stability and economic stability. And it has been proven and said many times by rating agencies that the courts and the judiciary are very important indicators of the rule of law and also of an investment destination. So this reflects that ourselves as a country were prepared to help this country of ours to contribute to job creation. President Ramaphosa has also just lifted the Rugby World Cup. And I heard some of the players from the Springbok come from this province. And they are smiling, they are saying bye. He was also the architect of our constitutional democracy. He participated in the drafting of this constitution. In terms of Section 83A of the Constitution, the President is the head of the state. He is also the head of the national executive. I'm now calling him as the head of the state to officially open and declare this court of Mpumalanga. It is through these powers that he also appoints judges, the head of the NPA, and various state institutions. President, the people of our country are here for your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Let's be seated, please. Thank you. Program Director, Deputy Minister John Jeffrey, Acting Deputy Chief Justice, Madam Justice Sisi Kampepe, Judge President Francis Lekodi. Yesterday, as I was receiving the Rugby World Cup, the Webb Ellis Cup at the Union Buildings, I commented that it's good that we were done with elections, because the level of popularity of Siya Kolisi, I saw that as a threat to me. So it's wonderful that there are no elections in the offing. Now, I'd like to say the same thing about Judge President Lekodi. When his name was announced, and what I've been hearing as I've been walking around, he's a very, very popular Judge President. Judge President, I'm happy, one, you're not in politics, and the elections are over. It's wonderful to be here in your court, and thank you very much for allowing us to be here. Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, Ronald Lamola, Minister of Public Works, Ms. Patricia Jalil, who has been walking around here with a great deal of pride, because she's the landlady of this building that we were opening today. And she was already issuing instructions about cleanliness, about maintenance, and looking for all the mistakes and the faults. That's the landlady of this place. So she is here, and trouble is here. Minister in the Presidency, Jackson Mtembu, who earlier was masquerading as a media officer and marshalling everybody to stand correctly for photographs. Deputy Minister Sinkosi Holomisa, Skwacha and Siweya, Member of Parliament who is here, who we've seen, Jomo Nyampi, and of course the Premier of our province here, Ms. Refile Msweni-Tsipani, and members of the Executive Council, and the Executive Mayor of Nhlanzeni District, Councillor Sidel, and the Executive Mayor of the City of Bombela, Sibusisa Matonzi, and the Chairperson, we're honored to have the Chairperson of the House of Traditional Leaders, Inkosi Ngomani, and we are wonderfully lucky to have a good number of members of the judiciary here with us. Former Judge President Mwepe, who continues to assist our country in a number of commissions, and Judges President Mlambo Mahoba Low, Musi Wekley, and President of the SIU Makanya, and Deputy Judge President of this division, Nangulelo, and members of the magistracy who are also here with us, and the National Director of Public Prosecutions, Ms. Patohi, and the Head of the Information Regulator, Ms. Pensi Takula, government officials, Directors General and Deputy Directors General, and other officials who are here, and the Director General of the Government in the Presidency, the one doctor who's a real leading civil servant in our, and he always refers himself as the government. And he comes from this province as well. I was rather pleased to see him here, and I now can connect the dots and know why he's here. Dr. Acacius Lubisi, and leaders of the governing party, the acting chair of the governing party, Mr. Ndogu, and the acting secretary of the governing party, Ms. Njali, and other parties, including leaders of the alliance and distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. I've taken the trouble to recognize as many of us who are here because this is truly a historic day. It's a day for celebration for the people of Mpumalanga as we officially open the first provincial High Court right here in Bombela. J.P. Luhodi, as we were going around, was in his usual jovial mood, and he was saying it's wonderful to be the last born, because when you are the last born, you get the best of everything. And indeed, he's got the best of everything. And acting Deputy Chief Justice Kampempe was very envious as we were going through this court. And in some aspects, she kept saying, this is better than my court. It's better than the Constitutional Court, the highest court in the land. And indeed, when you are the last born, you get the best toys, you get the best of everything. You get the best of modern technology that your parents can afford. And this is what's happening. But JP, this is not the last iconic building we're going to put up here in Mpumalanga. More is coming to this province. In many ways, this court represents a new era for the citizens and the people of this province, who have in the past had to travel long distances and difficult terrains to get access to justice. Until now, the people and the citizens of this province, whose matters fell outside the jurisdiction of the local magistrates' court, had to obtain relief in the High Court in Pretoria. This obviously caused considerable inconvenience. It also caused a lot of delays and huge financial hardship. As government, we promised that every province in our country will have a fully fledged but also well-resourced and capacitated High Court in line with the provisions of the Superior Courts Act of 2013. We are here today to fulfill that promise. Ours is a society that is committed to the advancement of human rights, of which the right to equality before the law, to equal protection of the law and the benefit of the law, as well as access to justice, forms a critical part. It is, however, not enough that such a right is merely prescribed. For it to be fully effective, we must endeavor to broaden the access to the law that our people should have. We must ensure that its shelter, its shade, and its shield is provided to everyone, regardless of their social circumstances. Since the advent of democracy in our country, in 1994, we have prioritized the reform of our justice system to rid it of barriers to access. Among these barriers are the cost of obtaining legal representation, the language or languages in which court proceedings are conducted in, and access for people with disabilities. Other barriers have included inordinately lengthy delays in cases being heard, and the postponement, may I say, constant postponement of cases, backlogs in the court roll, and people having to travel long distances to reach courtrooms, as has been the case here in this very province of Mpumalanga. These barriers have eroded confidence in the hearts of our people in the judicial system. Our courts, as then Chief Justice Sandile Ngobo said in 2010, make decisions which affect the liberty, the property, and the dignity of individuals. It is therefore critical that court proceedings must be accessible, but they must also be comprehensible to all, but especially society's most vulnerable people. For over a century, this province was tied to the notorious Transvaal Provincial Division of the Supreme Court in Pretoria, which was established by the apartheid regime. A number of historic trials took place in what was then known as the Eastern Transvaal, like the 1977 Bethal trial, where 18 political prisoners, or activists rather, were convicted and imprisoned for playing a role in fomenting revolution against the state. There is also the 1985 Delmas treason trial, which many of us will remember, which was one of the longest political trials in the history of South Africa, where 11 activists were sentenced to imprisonment terms ranging from 5 to 11 years, a decision that was later overturned by the appeal court in 1989. Now, these trials took place under extreme secrecy and were presided over by judges representing an unjust system. Today, we are opening a court that will administer justice without fear or favor or prejudice in an open and accessible process that reflects the ethos of our Constitution. And I'm pleased that Judge President Lekhodi confirmed this in his input as he stood on this very podium. Never and never again will the rights of our people be undermined by the courts as it happened under apartheid misrule. Today, our judiciary is firmly but also fiercely independent as an arbiter in disputes. It is representative of the people of this country and is committed to upholding constitutionalism. This court will hear civil and criminal matters, and it will serve the people of Manyeleti, Bushbuck Ridge, of Mbombela, of Kromdraai, in the Chief Albert Lutuli municipality, who no longer have to incur huge travel costs to have their legal matters heard. It will hear appeals or reviews from lower courts falling within its jurisdiction and also manage the province's 5 circuit courts that play such an important role in bringing judicial services to our people. Housed in this court are a total of 12 courtrooms, including a courtroom for use by specialized high courts such as the Labour Court and the Land Claims Court. I'm particularly pleased that this High Court will strengthen the work of the Family Advocate's Office, which plays such an important role in advancing children's rights. It will also play a vital role in ensuring access to justice for survivors of gender-based violence cases. In time to come, this court, together with other courts around the country, will be sufficiently resourced to expand the provision of services for women and children that respect their dignity and privacy. Already, Judge Lekhodi showed us the way in which this court is going to function when it hears gender-based violence cases where children are involved. This afternoon at the University of Mpumalanga, I will launch the 25-year review report, which we have entitled Towards a 25-year Review 1994 to 2019. Now, it is entitled Towards because the report is not intended to be a final verdict on how the people of South Africa have experienced democracy in the last 25 years, but rather it is meant to stimulate discussions, debates, and also to get the citizens of our country to reflect on the journey that we have traversed over the last 25 years. Clearly, poverty, inequality, and unemployment remain the biggest threats to our democracy. Unfortunately, and despite our best efforts, we continue to see the socio-economic rights of our citizens being degraded by others, and even more regretfully, neglected by the state. This is a sobering reality that must give us cause for reflection here today. Our courts face significant resource challenges and are already burdened with huge caseloads as well as backlogs as they strive to uphold the rights of all our citizens. It should not be, indeed it should never be, that the time and resources of our courts are being used to fight legal battles when local, provincial and national government departments fail to meet their obligations to our citizens. It should not be that we outsource the work that we should do to our legal courts, where legal battles are then fought. Our municipalities and government departments must do their work. They must implement government decisions and policies. They must manage their budgets prudently and deliver the services to our people. They must deliver health care, education, housing, water, sanitation and electricity without having to be compelled to do so by our courts. The services must be of quality and respect our people's dignity. And where court orders are issued against them, that is these departments, government departments, there must then be compliance. Failure to do so leads citizens to lose confidence in the integrity of the judicial system and process, which in turn erodes the rule of law. As part of our new district-based development model, we will be strengthening accountability and oversight in the implementation of government programs. As we know, a courthouse, no matter how state-of-the-art it is, must be adequately resourced. I want to thank, yes, that is true, I want to thank the Office of the Chief Justice and the Judge President for allocating to this court 3 permanent judges and 2 acting judges, together with law researchers, registrars, statisticians, librarians, clerks, and other key administrative staff who keep the wheels of justice turning. It is also pleasing to note that a number of legal aid offices also exists in this province that will assist our citizens to access justice. A few months ago, the mettle of our nation was sorely tested by the outbreak of violence directed at foreign nationals and the spate of killings of the women and the children of our country. As I said at the time, what we witnessed spoke to a wider breakdown of the rule of law in our country. We are working tirelessly to implement our strategy to combat gender-based violence. We are also working tirelessly to restore law and order in our communities, as well as to strengthen the work of our law enforcement officials. The courts are a refuge center to the people of our country, and they turn to this refuge center when they have a sense that their rights are being threatened, trampled upon, degraded, and denied. When they approach the courts, it is their rightful expectation that they will receive justice. We are extremely fortunate that our judiciary is respected widely across society and that our citizens accept its authority. As we strive to maintain the rule of law and at the same time give effect to the rights of our citizens, it is therefore critical that public confidence in the courts is maintained. It is critical that public confidence of our people is maintained and enhanced in the judiciary of our country. The impact of this court must extend beyond its magnificent buildings. It is not mere bricks and mortars that matter. It must empower every man, every woman, and every child in this province. This court must be a beacon of hope for all who have suffered prejudice, victimization, injustice, or the violation of their rights. It must inspire the young who want to follow in the footsteps of our great jurists like former Chief Justice Pius Langa, a son of this province. It must become a center of excellence that advances justice and redresses the wrongs of the past, especially through the land claims court as well as the labor court, that are also going to reside in this court building. This court must be seen as an agent of transformation, but it must also issue progressive judgments that advance the rights of our people, especially their socio-economic rights. It must set the bar, and may I say a very high bar for jurisprudence, and make its mark not just in Mpumalanga, but it must also make its mark throughout the country. In this, the land of the rising sun, we can say, as we celebrate the inauguration and the official opening of this court, that indeed a new day has dawned. This beautiful court, and architecturally, it is one indeed of the better buildings of justice that we have in our country. And I'm sorry that the other judge presidents who are here will be looking at this court with great envy. I'm sorry, judge presidents, you can be green with envy. You were not the last born. This is the court that is now the last born. So with this, I have the great pleasure and privilege to open this court and declare it open, and that justice is now open for the people of Mpumalanga. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President, for that inspiring and uplifting address. As you said, this is the arrival of the last born and a new era for the people of Mpumalanga. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, I think on this historic day that it's fitting we should also pay tribute to those who've gone before, to the legal giants on whose shoulders we stand today. We think of Alfred Mangena, Pixley Kaseme, Desiree Finkler, Godfrey Piche, George Monsioa, Madeleine Woki, Bram Fisher, Victoria Nklenge, and so many others. One can only but imagine how proud they would have been had they been here with us today. We honor their contribution and we commit ourselves to continue our efforts to make access to justice a reality for all. I now call on the Executive Mayor, Councillor Jester Sidel, to conclude our proceedings by delivering the vote of thanks.
Wow, what a day to celebrate. Very historic indeed for the people of Mpumalanga. Thank you so much, His Excellency, Mr. President. Program Director, allow me to take this opportunity to appreciate and at the same time thank the President of the Republic of South Africa on behalf of Mpumalanga Province, the place of the rising sun, for the official opening of the Mpumalanga Division of the High Court today. Indeed, what all of us has witnessed here today is historic in nature, and we fully understand that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, and transformation will not occur overnight. The visionary and inspirational leadership provided by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of South Africa, it is indeed appreciated and applauded. Mr. President, your address here today bespeaks the kind of person you are, always motivating, inspiring, and making one want to climb extra hills in pursuit of the excellence. Your leadership and guidance invest hope in the hearts and minds of all of us and the entire nation. The idea of the High Court is appreciated, and we believe it will bridge time and distance in that our people will not travel long distances and spend a lot of money to access the services of the High Court. We also want to extend our appreciation to your good self for the confidence you have demonstrated in appointing the Honorable Minister. That is our very own Honorable Minister, Ronald Lambula, to shoulder this demanding responsibility. As Mpumalanga, we want to say, in him we believe, in him we see ourselves, in him we see the future. Honorable Minister Lambula, we have no doubt that the resilience that you have demonstrated when it was not fashionable to do so, given the challenges that we face as a country, coupled with your strong conviction, served as a school that helped shape your character. Keep up the good work, Minister. A word of appreciation goes to the Honorable Premier of the province for a warm welcoming address. We are proud that we are led by your good self and that your leadership and guidance is like the unwavering constant northern star that brightens the future of our province. The same goes to our members of your executive, the ministers present. We have our own minister in the presidency, Uba Mtemu. We are proud of you, Minister Mtemu. The deputy ministers present, the parliamentarians, members of the executive for the provincial legislatures indicated, our executive mayor, we have our host executive mayor, Mayor Matonzi, all our councillors present, and our esteemed traditional leaders. To the office of the Chief Justice that is represented by the acting Deputy Chief Justice, Kampepe, I want to say the words of the Spider-Man, I quote, "To whom much is given, much is expected," close quote. The total transformation of the judiciary in helping create a united, non-racial and sexist and a democratic South Africa rests in your hands. To the Judge President of Mpumalanga Division of the High Court, Judge President Lihodi, we applaud you for the purpose well articulated. Thank you very much. Appreciation goes to the Director General of our province and his counterpart in the Department of Justice and all our HODs present, the Law Society, all our government officials, external stakeholders. I've noted we have the acting chairperson leading our masses in our movement. Thank you very much. The organizers of this event, the media houses, platform guests, and esteemed ladies and gentlemen, to you all I want to say, your presence has made this event a success. And on behalf of the people of Mpumalanga, Ehlanzeni, to be specific, we want to thank you all. Wow, that was beautiful. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the event. I think if people can stay at their seats while... Sorry? No, well, people seem to be waiting for something. But I think if everybody can wait at their seats for the President and the guests to leave. Thank you very much for being a great audience.